With the drive to achieve and better yourself, how do you recommend avoiding burnout?
There's multiple levels to this question, and this is a whole episode on its own. But to tackle the main thing that I think most people struggle with when it comes to burnout, it's the fact that we're trying to tackle too many things at once that are not actually moving the needle. So when you take a step back and you look at everything that you're doing, sometimes it's valuable to do an actual like timesheet throughout the day. So each 30 minutes or every 15 minutes or whatever, you write down what you just did.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day or the next day or whatever, you'd look at it and you go, I kind of wasted a lot of time.
Yeah.
But you also have to ask yourself, is what I'm doing moving the needle? Is this getting me closer to the goal that I want to accomplish or the work that I need to get done? Whatever it is, make sure that you're spending time on effective things.
Yeah.
It's part of the American culture and probably the rest of the world now that we feel like we always need to be doing something. It's nonstop and it's glorified, especially on Instagram and shit. People glorify the constant grind. Don't ever sleep.
I hate that stuff, dude.
Well, it's because you realize that it's bullshit.
It is completely. And because grind culture is just some fancy way of trying to make yourself like a person that says is like, I'm better because I can always grind. But then you as an individual struggle to do that. And then you feel like a failure because you can't grind culture when you're 3 days into it and you've had no sleep. And now every decision you make is horrible. I mean, it's stupid. We can go on the whole episode on grind culture and how.
But we're not going to.
But we're not going to.
The main
don't
idea
fall
here
into that trap.
Is don't fall into that trap. Make sure that what you're doing is actually moving the needle. But here's the thing. You only have about 5 hours of productivity throughout the day.
Yeah.
This has been studied. There's research papers on it and everything else. The average person has about 5 hours of productivity throughout the day. And as the day progresses, the less productivity that you have.
Makes sense.
So the best thing here, if you really just want to tackle and get as much done as possible that's going to move the needle, is to devote the first 5 hours of your day to getting shit done. And then the rest of the day is what I call bullshit work. So for me, I'll spend about an hour as soon as I wake up getting work done. And then I take about 30 minutes to an hour off. Either I'm getting the kid ready, taking her to school, or maybe I'm just kind of doing some bullshit work around the house, whatever it may be. And then from 9 to 5, or not 9 to 5, 9 to noon, that's deep work.
Yeah.
My phone is on silent and I'm dialed in on what I need to do. And I already know what I need to do because I planned it out the night before. But at that point, by noon, I'm pretty much zapped, dude. I can still get things done, but I have it scheduled out my day where I'm getting bullshit work done. Things that don't require as much attention.
Yeah.
So the way to avoid burnout is to be strict with your time. Know exactly what you're putting your energy towards, because that's what it all boils down to is energy consumption. And like how much energy are we putting into something?
Yeah.
And we don't think about it, but even scrolling through social media, that's a mental stimulation. That's draining energy from you.
Yeah.
When you're talking to someone, that's draining. You know, think about like a day when you just had to communicate with someone all day and you didn't get a break.
Yeah, it's tough.
Dude, you're done by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a full day of physical labor almost, but mentally.
I mean, I think about it, even recording these podcasts, right?
Oh man, these podcasts, like, well, that's why whenever we do podcast days, it's pretty much just
these are podcast days.
This is a podcast day because we're not really going to be worth anything afterwards.
Yeah. I think you kind of nailed it there, man. I would also say that, you know, if there are things that you're struggling to do that don't have to get done that day, that are kind of surrounded by whatever, you know, you're trying to achieve, like, don't be scared to take a break from it and come back to it the very next day. Now, I'm not somebody that believes in saying like, you know, well, it can always be done tomorrow. It can always be done tomorrow, because that's false. That is not correct. But sometimes something can be done the very next day, right? Put it in your 9 to 12 deep work the very next day and get it done. Because if it's something like, as a creative, for me, like I have to be creative in a lot of things I do when I'm writing. Like sometimes I just kind of reach the point of that day that I have nothing left and I'm going to end up with a really bad result if I try to push forward. So I'm going to make it the first thing that I do tomorrow.
So let's go ahead and be real with the listeners right now. All right. So what Joe just explained, I am experiencing firsthand. We have tried to record 5 times now a podcast. It is what, about 1:30, 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
I'm already mentally done. I've been up since 4:30 and I worked up until about noon, and then we decided to do this podcast. What we should have done is record the podcast at 9 o'clock this morning.
Yep.
That way I'm fresh.
Which we're going to do moving forward.
Which we're going to do moving forward. And we do 99% of the time, but we had
Yeah.
other things going on this morning and we needed to get these done. But, you know, I need to practice what I preach is what I'm trying to say.
Most of the time we do, but you know, it's the thing. It's like,
well, sometimes life gets in the way and you can't.
Yeah. So that's where we get to be real with people.
But be ruthless with your time and what you're putting energy towards. That's something that I've really been trying to dial in on lately is what am I putting energy towards? Yeah. And that's why I'm taking breaks throughout the day now is to recharge. Because you got to think of your energy levels. I mean, it's just like a battery. Your phone starts getting down and it starts functioning shitty. Like even with my iPhone, once it gets down to like 5%, it starts glitching out and everything else.
That's the worst.
You're the same way. So what can you do throughout the day to kind of recharge? That way you can continue getting shit done.
Yeah.
I mean, there's multiple things where I've just off the top of my head, meditation, take a power nap, take a quick shower, go on a walk.
I was going to say, I changed scenery. So Wednesdays are like my long, like, just get work done day, like posting, editing, everything. Like Wednesdays, I usually don't even come up here because I'm like, there's so much to do. But one thing I've done recently is I start off half of my day, like my 9 to 12 or whatever. I start off the beginning of my day at a coffee shop, and then I do the second half of my day at a different coffee shop or like a lounge area at my apartment complex. Like I'm still working, but I'm changing the scenery because it's like it's almost like a new day. It's refreshed. I take like an hour or two break. Maybe I'll get exercise in. Maybe I'll eat lunch, whatever it is. But I change scenery, so it's almost like a whole refreshing thing. I've taken my break, and now I'm not going back to that same place. That's helped me a bunch.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with a power nap or anything else. Like when you take a quick nap, 10, 15 minutes, whatever, in the middle of the day, it almost resets the day for you.
It's weird.
So that's something that you can do. So I guess the main thing to wrap up this question is be ruthless with your time, but also just focus on one thing. Yeah. Focus on what is moving the needle most and devote 80% of your time to that. Then the 20% of your efforts can go towards the more bullshit things.
Yep.
But make sure as long as you're working on that one thing that's moving the needle the most, then you're accomplishing it and you don't need to be working all the time. You need to take downtime in order to recharge as well. And that is how you avoid burnout.
Exactly.
The short and simple version. We'll do a whole episode on it eventually.
It's a great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. Thank you.